Welcome to the Matt Waller Podcast, where we look at success at the intersection of technology, logistics, supply chain, retail, and CPG, also known as the retail value chain. I want to clarify that this podcast is distinct from my responsibilities as a professor in the Sam M. Walton College of Business. Nonetheless, it aligns with my aspiration to provide practical insights to professionals and business by showcasing companies and people that can enhance your ability to manage, lead, and strategize and market effectively in the retail value chain. Before we dive into today's exciting episode, I'd like to thank our sponsor, New Road Capital Partners. New Road invests in proven technologies, services, and products that serve unmet needs in the marketplace. They look for companies in supply chain and logistics, as well as consumer-oriented companies. For more information, go to newroadcp.com. I would also like to disclose that I am a strategic advisor to New Road. I'd also like to recognize podcastvideos.com for the services they provide for these podcasts. I'm very pleased with their services. And now, without further ado, let's get into the exciting episode. I have with me today Natalia Burgett, who is the Chief Strategy Officer of Platform Science. I think you're really going to like this episode because Platform Science is an extremely successful, fairly early stage company. And one thing coincidentally is that just before recording this, it was announced that they had another $125 million round of funding. Very exciting. And this is at a time where it's hard to get funding. So the fact that Platform Science got that level of funding says a lot about the company. Natalia has an incredible background. She majored in economics at Stanford, and then she went to work for Goldman Sachs for 10 years. And now she's been with Platform Science for a couple of years. But so she understands finance, she understands the industry, and I think you'll find the talk very engaging and interesting. At Platform Science, platforms in the name. And I remember very early on, I heard a presentation from one of the founders. I think it was an accelerator. It was quite a few years ago. But I thought, okay, they've actually put this in their name. I hope they really are a platform. But it turns out that they actually are a platform for fleets. And it's amazing that this hasn't been done up to this point, but it hasn't, and Platform Science is doing it. They've done a splendid job of creating partnerships with OEMs, with shippers, carriers. I think you're really going to find it quite interesting. Also, the future of this company is amazing, and you're going to hear why it is. So I think you'll enjoy it. Natalia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Happy to do so.
Well, Natalia, I remember learning about Platform Science early on, and it's amazing how far you all have come in really a short period of time. And I also want to start out by just congratulating you on this new round of funding of $125 million. That's terrific. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's very exciting. So a lot of work to get there, but we're really excited about the future.
Could you tell us a little bit about the round?
Sure. We're really excited. It was a combination of a lot of our existing investors. So people that have been with the company for the beginning, they're, happy with our progress and really excited for the future and willing to invest more to take us to the next phase. We also added, some new strategic investors with investments from people like Cummins and PACCAR. We have new financial investors where we brought in, what I call smart money, like MSD, BDT and MSD Capital, as well as Activent, to join some of our other existing investors like SoftBank and Prologis and 8BC and New Road. So we have a really good, investor base that understands the industry, that's very smart, that really believes in us. whether they're strategic partners, Daimler's an investor, Packer's an investor, whether they're strategic partners or they're financial partners. I think everybody's kind of aligned on what we're trying to accomplish and really believe in our vision, and just excited to have the funding to kind of continue to build on what we've accomplished so far and kind of take us to that the next level of growth. So we're really excited. It's a lot of kind of wind beneath our wings, right? Kind of move us on to the next phase.
Well, that's great. So Natalia, a lot of companies say they're a platform, but they're really not. And I'm familiar with what you're doing. You're truly a platform for fleets.
Yes.
I know for a long time, the transportation industry has really relied on proprietary systems for any kind of software needs in their equipment. But how has platform science helped fleets overcome the obstacle of outdated technology and innovated the driver's experience?
Sure. So I'm sure a lot of you know historically, you would get a little black box and put it in your truck. And with that came kind of a bundled software solution that was linked to the hardware. And so you were using all of the software that came with that solution, whether it was ULD, compliance, everything kind of together. And it was linked to the hardware. And what would happen, kind of think of it as an old Motorola flip phone. If you wanted to change the software that you were using on your flip phone, you had to get a new phone because it was all kind of bundled together. And what our founding team was lucky enough to do way back when we started was to embed themselves with one of our earliest and largest fleets, Schneider National. And they basically kind of lived up in Green Bay with them for a while and just tried to understand some of the pain and some of the issues that they were having in terms of not only being able to, separate the hardware from the software, meaning they wanted to be able to have flexibility to change, things that they were using. And also they wanted to be able to create some of their own solutions. And in the old model with these kind of closed bundled systems, there wasn't flexibility to innovate with your own technology, to create your own apps, to, change things in and out without having to rip it all out and put in a new box. And so that's kind of where we started with the idea that not only do we want to kind of meet the needs of these large enterprise fleets and what Schneider itself was looking at as a pain point for them, but we wanted to do it in a way that kind of almost future-proofed it so that it was open and it was a platform that people could innovate. And so when you think about this old world where everybody was bundled, that assumed that that person who was building all those solutions were best in class and best in breed in everything you might need to use. And we all know that that's not, really true and that not everybody can be best in class at everything. And there is a lot of innovation happening in this space and a lot of investment and a lot of developers kind of becoming uniquely good at very specific things. And so by creating an open platform where we could kind of create standardized data that can be used by some of our own things, we have our own bundle of fleet solutions, but also others in our marketplace. We kind of created a future-proof place where people can swap technology in and out, change what they want to use, and have kind of flexibility to evolve into the future, whatever that looks like.
I know platform science has spent a lot of time working directly with fleets. And as a result, you all have a lot of industry knowledge and experience. How has that shaped your solution?
Sure. And I think, it kind of goes back to what I just said, kind of how we were founded, right? By embedding with a fleet and really trying to understand the needs of the fleet and what they're looking for. And I think we still very much operate on a kind of whenever possible, we go out and, do things alongside the users of our product. So we go sit with a compliance person. We ride along with our customers. We still have a ride along thing. We're always doing that. We want the company and the people who work here to ride along with the drivers. And we take kind of a first principle approach to finding the right problems that our technology can solve effectively and not just kind of say, someone send us an email with requirements and we just go to build it. We actually try to solve the problem and work together with the customer to say, okay, how can we do this in the most effective way? So I would say we're very customer focused. We're very, we try to be innovative and creative, and we're not trying to just kind of have a cookie cutter, one size fits all solution to the problem. We really try to kind of think, listen to our customers.
So I know you all talk about the goal of making transportation smart. What does that really mean for fleets and their operations, and how do you work to connect these aspects to a fleet?
Sure. So when you think about what does smart mean, I think it's important to set the context, right? It doesn't take a long time in this industry. I didn't come from trucking or transportation, but it doesn't take a long time to realize that this ecosystem is very inefficient. It's redundant. It's duplicative. It's kind of a mess when you think about it. The data is trapped in silos. Humans have to be in the loop to connect systems and manually progress, the jobs forward. I'll give you some examples. So, we have a large fleet customer, one of the largest in the United States, who said that on an average tractor trailer, they have, 4 black boxes with 4 different SIM cards, 4 different data plans, and 4 different distinct sets of data coming off of it. And if you think about a definition of what is a critical event, those different boxes and those different systems have different definitions of critical events. And it takes a fleet manager to go back and try to reconcile all this data and kind of tie them together. And that is becoming, it's already bad enough. And with the proliferation of solutions and apps, it's getting worse and worse. And so I'll give you another example, right? An average driver now for one of these large fleets might have, anywhere from 10 to, 15 different apps that they have to go through, whether it's a bypass or a navigation or an if to fuel tech situation or, a weather app or a training app. And they're logging in to all of these independently of each other. So they're going in and they're logging in, and then they have to go out and log into the other one and go out and log into the other one. And it's a very, very inefficient way to operate. And from a driver's perspective, it's not very driver friendly, right? So you're getting all this innovation that's happening, but it's happening in a siloed way that isn't actually, it's creating more problems as we try to solve for others. And so another example, and just because I think it's important to set the context of some of the things we're trying to solve, all of the tier ones and the manufacturers, everybody wants to be close to the end user and create a connection with the end user. So they're creating, software and portals and places to try to connect and to do over-the-air updates and to give you information. So you've got tire companies creating smart tires with, tell you your treads and can predict when you need to get the tire changed, and it'll give you weight and it'll give you all these things and pressure. And you have a fleet manager now who has to log on to, an engine portal to figure out what's going on with their engine on a truck. And then they got to log into the tire portal to go look at this. And from the maintenance guy, it's great that everybody's trying to give them all this information, but it's also become cumbersome. So what we're really trying to do here is to make that whole thing connected and smart and have the technology do a lot of that work that's being manually done for the driver. So for example, a smart technology for the driver is they log in once and our workflow talks to the navigation, it talks to DriveWise, and it sends you in and out of these things seamlessly. So the driver doesn't have to log out, log back in, close out of the solution, go out to that. It'll give you alerts in real time so that the driver's experience is more seamless and efficient. For the fleet manager, we want the data to talk to each other on the back end. We want there to be one portal you go through to see everything that's on your truck, right? We want just essentially, to partner with all of the people in the industry that are developing for this space and to make it all connected and to make it more frankly, eliminate a lot of the redundancy and the inefficiencies. Right now, everybody has to integrate to everybody. It's like a big giant thing of spaghetti where you've got all these integrations going between all the developers and all the TSPs and all the OEMs. And you're doing it over and over and over again. And our goal is to have one platform a developer can integrate once and then deploy it across any fleet at any time and just make the whole process more efficient.
For those listening that may not be familiar, It's like really the Apple platform for apps
Yeah.
did that for a lot of uh, things that you use daily. And this is doing that same kind of thing, but with fleets.
Yeah, and if you think about it from a marketplace perspective, so we have about 100 apps or so, or apps or solutions that you can purchase in our marketplace. And kind of when we went out to build it, one of the the key tenets is we have our own fleet solution product. So for example, we have our own navigation, but we wanted fleets to have choice. They don't have to use ours. And one of our best selling app solutions is Trimble Maps, and we want our navigation people to have to compete based on quality and based on what's right for the fleet. And so we have to, put our money where our mouth is and compete with everybody else in the marketplace. And to use your Apple analogy, yes, you can use your Apple Calendar, but you can also use the Google Calendar or any other calendar on your Apple iPhone, right? You can use Gmail on your Apple iPhone. And so we really did build it to create a marketplace independently of whether we're building the apps or someone else is building the apps. We want the fleets to ultimately have the choice to use, what they want to use and what's right for them. So we encourage, a lot of development and choice and innovation, and we want, that to really flourish because it's the right thing in the end for the customer.
So in some ways, you also have created a platform for entrepreneurs to be able to come up with innovative solutions.
Absolutely. And I actually oversee the marketplace. And when I took over about 2 years ago, and we were smaller, we only had about 10 apps on the marketplace at the time. I would say most of the developers in the space were kind of like legacy bigger companies. And now even just 2 years later, maybe 30-40% of the apps that we're seeing are new software developers. They're startups. They're people who have seen all the problems we described earlier and are innovating and trying to kind of solve problems in specific niches. And I think that's a difference as well, is that now that there is a place to develop and be open, you don't have to provide a whole solution, right? You can have someone who just specializes in TPMS or someone who just specializes in looking at driver scoring, or just does weather, or just does distracted driving. And so we're seeing a lot of innovation. And I'll tell you that speaking to our BD team, I mean, we have hundreds of apps in the pipeline of partners that want to work with us, that we want to work with. And it honestly feels like a never ending list, and which to me is really encouraging, because it means that there's a lot of investment going on in the space. There's a lot of innovation going on in the space, and people are really seeing the opportunity to try to create value for fleets by solving problems, by increasing ROI, and by really, trying to address some of the systemic issues we have in this very kind of disconnected, somewhat archaic supply chain system.
So I remember early on being at a pitch competition accelerator where your founders pitched this idea, and I thought, what a brilliant idea. But it's encouraging to hear you saying that there's now all of these companies creating apps for your platform. I think that's probably one of the reasons why your evaluation has done so well, because you truly are a platform. Again, like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of companies that say they're a platform, but they aren't in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I think we really are, in the sense that we try to be not only open, but we use the same APIs for our fleet solutions as we provide to our third parties. And so from that perspective, we definitely are an open platform. And interestingly enough, one of the things that people have found really valuable from our platform is the fact that, for example, a fleet themselves can write their own software and deploy it on our platform, which you couldn't do with some of the legacy systems. So Walmart's in transit, for example, right, operates on our platform, and as well as a number of other fleets have, whether it's a piece or a big component of it, they're able to deploy their whatever they want to build in conjunction with what they buy from third parties or from us. And I think that flexibility, especially as we evolve and people focus on what they need instead of what's off the shelf, I think allows for us to do very well and kind of meet what the customers are asking us to provide. And I think when we talk about why our valuation is so big, I think it's not only because we work with some of the biggest fleets in the space. We're partnered with some of the largest OEMs, some of the largest tier one manufacturers, a lot of developers, and we really are trying to lead the way on fixing some of these kind of systemic issues in the space. And I think people that are kind of leaders in the supply chain world see the value in what we're doing and are investors in us and are aligned with us on accomplishing those goals and kind of trying to change the way it's always been.
Having the OEMs on board is a key to that.
Yeah, I guess I should explain kind of what our strategy is with the OEMs. So, I mentioned earlier how, 4 boxes on a tractor trailer, that's not very logical, especially because most trucks these days come with their own box, right? The Daimlers and the Packers, they already come with black boxes that do the stuff that they need them to do, right? They already come with stuff that gives them information for maintenance and gives them information on the truck. So there already is hardware deployed natively to the vehicle. And what we've done that's kind of, unique is we've partnered with, I think we've announced partnerships with Daimler, Packard, and Navistar to be natively on the vehicle with what our platform is called Virtual Vehicle. And what does that mean? What that means is you no longer need to add an aftermarket box when you want to use platform science. You can literally just give us the VIN number and we will turn it on remotely. And we, that sounds kind of cuckoo, but we've actually deployed an entire 1,000+ fleet already in 2023 without having to take the trucks off the road to add a black box on the aftermarket. And, you can do over-the-air updates with that to the software. And it's really a game changer from an efficiency perspective because you're not dealing with having to replace a box every 2 to 3 years. And if you want to change stuff, you don't have to take the box out. So we really believe, we're betting on the idea that, just like in your passenger car, you've got a screen and you can see what's happening with your vehicle and the camera's embedded. We really think that the trucks are going to head in that same direction, even though they're a little, behind on the passenger vehicle side, that, the hardware equipment will end up being more native to the vehicle. And we want to be the software that sits on top of it as a platform that allows other people to innovate and develop to that without having to have their own hardware.
Well, over the years, just following platform science, it seems to me one of your core competencies is partnerships. And could you speak to a little bit about how you've developed trust with fleets and how it's helped you to really understand their needs?
Yeah, I think part of it is just kind of our foundation of who we are. We're not, we started working with enterprise fleets, and as you know, they have long sales cycles. And in the process of that, you get to know the fleets, right? You build trust, you build relationships. We really do try to listen. When you're trying to change things, you're not just building something. You've got to really try to understand what it is that the customers want. And so we just have a culture here of, working very closely with our customers to meet their needs. And I think I've talked a little bit about that already. But we also, we have partnerships with, working with these large OEMs, right? We're embedding in their vehicles with our software. So they're invested in us. We're building strong relationships with them. And I would say the same with some of the tier one guys. We have very strong relationships. Some of the developers, we have very strong relationships. And part of the reason, we're working with the large guys is because when you want to change the way something's done in an industry, and not just do the way it's always been done, it helps to work at the top, right? The influencers, the leaders in the space, and listen to what they think is needed and build something that actually solves problems and not just kind of redo what's been done in a shinier, packaged way. We're really trying to kind of do things a little differently. We're really focused on the driver experience. A lot of what we do is about kind of how the driver experience is better. And I can talk a little bit about that because I think it's an interesting thing to discuss. But, we're trying to solve problems and working with the large guys to address their needs is kind of the mantra of what we do. And, if we do that correctly, and make improvements, it should, naturally trickle down to the rest of the industry. So, we take our partnerships very seriously. We spend a lot of time listening. We spend a lot of time on site with our customers, with our partners, just really trying to collaborate and work with them to fundamentally try to answer the question or solve the problem, and not just say, here is the product.
Natalia, could you talk a little bit about the driver experience and how you're impacting that?
Sure. So we talked a little bit earlier about, trying to make the driver experience better, right? As we've had this proliferation of apps, and the drivers now have so many, and they have to log on. The other thing, one of the issues that we've heard from our fleets is not only are they now having 10 apps that they have to load on, they're all on their phones. And from a fleet perspective, that's a liability, right? How do you keep the driver, they're driving this giant vehicle and they're having to go on and off their phone all the time. How do you control that they're not using it while wheels are in motion? How do you, ensure that the driver experience is safe, that it's efficient, that the drivers are happy because it's intuitive? And so we've really invested in making, not only from our solutions themselves, making the experience more it's customizable to the company, so that, or to the fleet, so that what the driver is seeing is what the fleet would want them to be seen, and what their day looks like. But also on the back end integrations on with our developers and our third party partners. So like I said, you can go in and go out of these different apps on the back end. It's integrated, but the driver's experience is seamless between all these different apps. And then in addition to that, we have an actual MDM for transportation. So as a fleet, what does that allow you to do from a fleet manager perspective? It allows you to deploy certain apps to certain parts of your fleet. So if you're, a 1,000 truck fleet, you only want, a portion of your fleet that drives in the mountains to have a weather app, but you don't want the other portion to have it, we can do that. We can turn on certain apps for certain parts of the fleet as needed. We also allow you to differentiate based on the driver. So if you're a 1,000,000-miler driver, you may be allowed to use this app while you're driving, but if you're a new one, this one shuts down while wheels are in motion. And we do that by having a company tablet, and to really try to focus on, making the entire experience seamless, controlled, safe, and kind of customizable from the fleet manager perspective. So we really try to take things off of the driver's phones and put it onto, a company tablet that is safer and can be managed by the fleet. And it really ensures that, it's a safer and more seamless and more efficient experience for the driver.
So by having this platform, you're certainly encouraging innovation. What are some other ways you're encouraging innovation in the industry? And also, what can we expect to see in the future?
Sure. So I think one of the surprises for us is we built this kind of all this functionality, right, for a fleet. And I think what we've realized is that there's a lot of different use cases. There's other types of customers, whether it's a tier one, paying us to put the platform or the portals onto our platform, whether it's the MDM solution itself, separate from the vehicle data and the, quote unquote ELD. There's a lot of different opportunities to leverage some of the things that we've built that are unique to find different customer bases or to meet different kinds of needs that are more specific, that, not everybody needs everything. And I think we've realized that different components and debundling it even further, not only from an app or a solution perspective, but also from a platform capability perspective, we've seen demand for that. And so I think that's a really neat opportunity to solve, different kinds of problems with different kinds of solutions. And then I think there's just a lot of opportunity broadly to what we call it vehicle-centric mobility. But I think thinking beyond the tractor to all of the parts of the ecosystem, right? So, we've been talking today about the driver, the fleet manager, the developer, and the truck itself. But, thinking about trailers, we have some trailer partners. And, when we talk about tractors being outdated, trailers are another decade behind. There's so many different sensor companies and different kinds of components. And, they're older, generally speaking. And how do you connect all that and make all that connect to what we're doing on the tractor. And so there's a lot of opportunity to expand into the trailer world. And then beyond that, thinking through things like, the yards. One of our partners has an app that opens and closes the gates when they move into the warehouses. So you don't have to stay in those horrible long lines when you're pulling into a warehouse or a distribution center. So working with some of the folks that are innovating there to put it all through this one connected platform. And you can imagine, expanding to all the pieces and the components of where that truck goes over the course of a day, whether it's the ports, whether it's, intermodal, whether it's, the distribution centers. There's just a lot of opportunity when you think through connecting data, making data more efficient, making the data talk to each other on the back end, and fundamentally taking the people out of the equation so that you don't have to do things manually. We just think there's a lot of opportunity to make the entire supply chain more efficient, more, frankly, just improve it in a lot of ways through technology. And it's stuff that's been done in other industries. We're just trying to apply these same kind of lessons learned into the transportation world.
Natalia, what are some growth opportunities maybe in other industries or other types of vehicles? What do you see for the future there?
So beyond kind of what I've already mentioned in terms of, being able to access different customer types through different pieces of the platform, from a fleet perspective, I think we've historically really focused on kind of general freight, bulk tankers, kind of more kind of, long haul. And I think there's lots of opportunity for us to take what we've developed and worked with kind of the largest fleets out there and apply it to other industry sectors. For example, we haven't done anything in construction, and there's just a number of other segments or use cases in the industry that we really haven't even begun to touch on. And we've seen a lot of growth. And part of that is just we've had, such significant growth and so much success in the spaces we're in. But as I think over the future, right, we obviously want to expand into other parts of the transportation system and other kinds of industries and use cases. And the benefit of our platform is we don't have to build everything for all of those different industries, right? We can be the platform, and I'm sure there's someone out there already building apps for utility companies that they could then just be on our platform and allow us to kind of take the best in breed of what's already there and other things that we already have on the platform. And then in addition to that, a lot of our big fleets, in addition to kind of big Class 8 vehicles, they operate in smaller vehicles. So we also see the opportunity to go into other classes and kind of do, because we're flexible, meet different use cases for different kinds of jobs, different kinds of vehicles, different kinds of sectors. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for us to grow, with fleets themselves and with, fleet customers of all different types. We just haven't even really had the need to kind of do that yet, but it's a big opportunity for the future.
Natalia, what excites you most about the future of platform science and how it's positioned to disrupt the industry?
Sure. I think getting where we are now, where we have partnerships with, 3 of the largest OEMs, getting everybody to work together to see the vision and alignment from the largest fleets, the largest OEMs, on, what we've always seen as our vision, but really getting other people that are leaders in the space to buy into that vision and believe in it just like we do, is really exciting. And I'll tell you, it takes a little while to get everybody on the same page, but we're kind of at this place where everybody's on the same page and, not only invested in us or customers of ours, but I think that's really exciting because going forward, when you've got all the major players in the industry or a lot of the major players in the industry kind of bought into your vision, it really sets the tone for the future, right? We've got funding, we've got great customers, we've got great OEM partners. We want to do things differently. We want to do things better. And I think it's just really exciting to feel like where we are now, when I started the company almost 3 years ago, people didn't really understand what we were trying to do. And I feel like we've made so much progress, not only in terms of just growing our customer base and our product stack and developing the platform as its own unique thing, but really in terms of just explaining what we're trying to do and how we're different and the problems that we're trying to solve. And I feel like we're really poised to leverage all of that work and all of our partnerships and all of that investment right now to really trying to kind of make things better for the space. And it's exciting to be a part of it. I recognize that the space, not everybody wants the same thing, and there's always going to be room for, kind of the old way of doing things. But, we're just really excited to work with kind of some of the industry leaders and really change the way things are done and do it in a more, cost effective, efficient way so that people can really focus on where they add value and not spend so much time doing things manually. And I think that's what technology is for, right? It's to make things faster, better, quicker, more efficient. And I think that this industry, can benefit a lot from that if it's done effectively.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Natalia, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. If you're finding value in this podcast, we greatly appreciate your support by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Additionally, following us on Apple and Spotify and leaving up to a 5-star review would be immensely helpful. We welcome any feedback or questions related to the podcast, as well as suggestions for further topics and guests. You can leave your comments on our YouTube channel, and rest assured that I will read each and every one of them. Please also take a moment to check out our podcast sponsors, as they play a critical role in keeping this podcast running. For more information on specific topics, timestamps, or links to articles mentioned during the